back to your seat, can we just take a minute and give it up for all of the volunteers, all the people who have made this thing happen? Let's give them a big round of applause. It's been a great day. My name is Scott Hodge, and I am the lead pastor at a church outside of Chicago called The Orchard. And I have the privilege of introducing our next speaker here at WhiteBoard. Several weeks ago, I received an email from our next speaker who asked me 3 or 4 questions that were the type of questions that sort of reach out and slap you, and mess you up a little bit. And that's just the kind of guy that Perry is. And of course, we're going to hear from Perry Noble, who is a tremendous pastor in South Carolina. My goodness, it is Anderson, South Carolina, New Spring Church. You may have heard of it. It's a small, struggling church of about 8,000. And I got to just warn you, this is the kind of guy that will stretch you, challenge you, and punch you in the throat. He is the new voice of the South, and his name is Perry Noble. Would you put your hands together and welcome Perry Noble to WhiteBoard?
Yeah, if this happens in 30 minutes, that's right up there with the Red Sea parting, so I've got to watch right here. If you have a Bible, let's go with Mark chapter 3. Get your Bible out and go to Mark chapter 3. And I just want to, Ben emailed me, called me, something like that, several months ago and asked me, would I be interested in doing this? And I got to be honest with you. Normally, I hardly ever say yes automatically, but I said yes on the phone simply because I love Ben Arment. I think he's one of the coolest guys, and I'm just saying that. And you know, he is, yeah, so give it up for one more time for Ben. I think he's a great guy. And they gave me $10,000. So I'm really excited. Didn't do that. You know, I'm excited to be here, and right when Ben called, I began to pray and say, God, what do you want me to talk about? Because I'm 8.5 years into this thing. Most days I feel like a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest. I have you'll get that later. I have no idea what I'm doing, and God really, really, really spoke to my heart and said, speak to these guys about who I called them to be. And so I want to do that because if we'll just be honest, guys, ministry is the toughest job on the planet. Listen, I think if you can successfully lead a church, you could successfully lead any secular organization, because with secular organizations, you can lead with power and fear and control, and with ministry, you have to take the serving towel off, put it around your waist, and learn how to wash people's feet and lead that way. And it's the toughest thing in the world. It reminds me of a time I was in the gym, and if you listen to me on my podcast, you know most of my stories come from the gym because that's where I spend a lot of time. And I was working out on this treadmill, and I do this thing, I don't know if you work out or not, it's called interval training, where I ramp the treadmill up to 8 miles an hour, and I back it down to 6, and I go 8.5, and I go 6, and I go 9.5, and then I go 6, and by the end, I'm just flying, and I'm going as hard as I can, and this particular treadmill was broke, and I didn't know it at the time. I promise you, because somebody's going to email me and tell me how mean I am, I promise you I didn't know the treadmill was broke. And so I get on there, I'm running, and finally, I had to hit the stop button, because I was going like 9.5, I couldn't breathe, sweat's flying everywhere, it's really gross. I hit the stop button, and I got off the treadmill, and I was kind of walking around, hands on the waist, trying to breathe, trying to catch my breath, and I walked out of the room. I come back in the room, I sit on a bicycle directly across from this treadmill, and the treadmill was the kind of treadmill that when you came in and you hit start, it would pick up at where the previous person had left off, because it was, so this 75-year-old woman comes in, and she stands on the treadmill. Now, I promise you, I'm completely out of my mind at this point. I'm sitting on the bike. I'm kind of pedaling. Her little husband, he was so cute, little old man. He's over here on this little rowing machine, and he was singing while he rode. And it was cute. It was like Blessed Assurance or something like that. And seriously, and so this woman hits the start button, and all I hear is, and she has hands running, going, help! And she's about to fall. Well, normally, at first, I was like, I jumped off the bike, I run over, I hit the stop button, I pulled this lady off, her husband comes running over. It took him 2 or 3 days to get there, but he finally got there. And he was like, thank you for saving her life. And I was like, dude, wasn't all that really. And so I got her off the treadmill. I was like, you okay? And she's like, I'm fine. I was very concerned. And then I walked out of the room. I got to be honest. I walked out of the room and laughed because it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Listen, I'll just say it. It was funny. But here's the deal. Here's the deal. And let me ask you something, guys. Let's just be honest. How many days have you had in ministry where you felt like that woman on the treadmill? Where you hit the start button and it was, and you were like, somebody's got to get me off of this thing. How many days have you gone home and looked at your spouse and said, I would rather stack lumber at Home Depot? How many days have you gone home and told your spouse or said to your friends, I love Jesus, I don't love the people that love Jesus? There are going to be times, and I'd be willing to bet in a room this size that some of us are going through it right now, that we better know why we're doing what we're doing, because that treadmill is going to ramp up, and if we don't know why we're doing what we're doing, we'll either quit or we will disqualify ourselves immorally. And so I just want to talk to you about who God's called you to be and what God's called you to do, because I think if we can get our minds around that,